the peaceful transfer of power from one administration to the next. For many of the law enforcement officers defending the Capitol on that day, January 6th was also dangerous, painful, and personal. On that day, officers were punched, tackled, and tased as they defended the Capitol and those inside. One officer was crushed in a door, and another was dragged down a flight of stairs. Officers were attacked with chemical agents that burned their eyes and skin. They were assaulted with pipes, poles, and other dangerous and deadly weapons. Over the course of, I'll wait just one moment until the fire trucks pass. Over the course of several hours, law enforcement officers defending the Capitol sustained a barrage of repeated violent attacks. 140 officers were assaulted. We honor the officers who selflessly defended members of Congress and others inside the Capitol that day. Our efforts are with the loved ones who are grieving for the 5 officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty as a result of what happened to them on January 6th. We must never forget the terrible violence inflicted on law enforcement officers on January 6th. Since the January 6th attack, the Justice Department has engaged in what has become one of the largest and most complex and resource-intensive investigations in our history. We have initiated prosecutions and secured convictions across a wide range of criminal conduct on January 6th, as well as in the days and weeks leading up to the attack. We have secured convictions of those who brutally assaulted officers at the Capitol. We have secured convictions against those who obstructed the certification of the presidential election. We have secured convictions of leaders of both the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers for seditious conspiracy. So far, we have charged over 1,250 individuals and obtained over 890 convictions in connection with the January 6th attack. Our work continues. As I said before, the Justice Department will hold all January 6th perpetrators at any level accountable under the law, whether they were present that day or were otherwise criminally responsible for the assault on our democracy. In the ongoing January 6 investigations and prosecutions led by U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Matt Graves, and Special Counsel Jack Smith, the Justice Department is abiding by the long-standing norms that ensure our independence and the integrity of our investigations. We are following the facts and the law wherever they lead. We are enforcing the law without fear or favor. We are honoring our obligation to protect the civil rights and civil liberties of everyone in our country. We are upholding the rule of law, and we are protecting the American people. With that, I would like to turn over the meeting to Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. Share any words you may have.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Attorney General. The Justice Department has no higher priority than keeping our communities safe. The law enforcement agencies represented here are essential to that mission, and I am proud to serve with them. Since the start of this administration, this department has been laser-focused on targeting the most significant drivers of violent crime, with gun violence at the very top of that list. Our strategy is data-driven, and it focuses on doing what we do best, acting as a force multiplier with our state and local law enforcement partners who, after all, are on the front lines of the fight against violent crime, and deploying technology and other tools, cutting-edge tools, to go after the individuals most responsible for crime in our communities. We're seeing returns on our efforts. After a peak during the pandemic, violent crime is on a downward trajectory, as the Attorney General discussed, including double-digit drops in homicide rates across many major cities in this country. But communities across this country are still coming together in grief because of the devastation of gun violence, including just yesterday in a school shooting in Iowa that claimed the life of a 6th grader. We must continue to do all we can to reduce gun violence and protect the people we serve. Now, crime gun intelligence, the ability to trace the guns and the ballistics from crime scenes and to identify the most prolific repeat shooters, is integral to our strategy, and it has been a game changer. That's because crime gun intelligence allows us to take those repeat shooters off the streets, to drive case closure rates up, and to drive violent crime rates down. Working with our state and local partners, the ATF is now tracing more illegally deployed firearms than ever before. With a database of over 6 million pieces of ballistics evidence, ATF has generated more than 800,000 investigative leads. These investigative leads help solve violent crimes and make our communities safer. We're committed to making ballistics and gun tracing and other crime gun intelligence tools available to every law enforcement agency in the country, from the smallest towns to the biggest cities. Taking crime gun intelligence from a violent crime scene should be as standard as taking fingerprints from a criminal. Now, crime gun intelligence has also enabled us to maximize the benefits of the most significant gun safety legislation passed in the last 30 years, the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Among these common sense steps, this law enables the FBI to conduct enhanced background checks for prospective firearms purchasers under the age of 21, as the Attorney General mentioned. And over the last year and a half, these enhanced checks have kept 527 guns out of the hands of young people prohibited by law from possessing them. It helps the department also crack down on black market gun dealers who peddle deadly weapons and to increase prosecutions for unlicensed firearms dealing by 60% since 2021. Our intelligence-based violent crime strategy is also delivering in terms of arrests. Over the last year and a half, the U.S. Marshals Service has deployed crime data to target its fugitive apprehension efforts in areas with the highest violent crime rates. And then, working with our state and local partners, they've arrested more than 6,700 of the nation's most violent fugitives, again, making our communities safer. So it's by working in tandem with our state and local partners that we can move the needle and continue this downward trajectory that we're seeing in the violent crime rates across the country. Just yesterday, our U.S. Attorney in Maryland announced that homicides in Baltimore dropped by more than 20% this past year, thanks to strategic law enforcement initiatives and to community partnerships. The city of Detroit made a similar announcement the day before, reporting that it closed 2023 with the fewest homicides on record since 1966. That's in over 45 years. The fewest homicides on record over the last 45 years, and double-digit reductions in shootings and carjackings, again, thanks to their federal, state, and local partnerships. And on the West Coast, in October, the city of Sacramento announced an 18% reduction in violent crime, including a 40% reduction in homicides. Federal law enforcement partnered closely with local authorities in Sacramento on strategies to address violent crime and gun crime in particular. So as we start this new year, the declining murder and violent crime rates are undoubtedly good news. But while the trends are broad, they are not uniform. So we cannot and we will not relent. To the contrary, we need to double down on what works. That means more joint federal, state, and local efforts to target violent criminals, more investments in putting more cops on the beat, making more cutting-edge crime gun intelligence available to as many of our partners as possible, disrupting every aspect of the violence-fueled fentanyl supply and delivery chain, stopping the spread of ghost guns and devices like Glock switches that convert firearms into weapons of war, and of course, investing in our partnerships with state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies across the country. The strategy is paying dividends, so we need to maintain our momentum. I want to thank the men and women of our law enforcement agencies for their tireless efforts to keep the country safe. protect civil rights, and uphold the rule of law. And I'm looking forward to our discussion this morning.
Great, thank you, everyone.
What's the plan for this city, Washington DC? Did you have something to say later on?
Yeah, as I said, we will be announcing very soon additional steps we're going to take with respect to Washington, D.C.
Thank you all.
Thank you.